Jay here from Stretford, Paddock, and this is our one-to-one interview. And joining us is our good friend Kieran Maguire from The Price of Football. We wanted to speak to a football financial expert, and as usual, we turned to Kieran Maguire, a man who I was just telling, we started calling you Nostradamus around the office, Kieran, because when it came to the Glazers selling, you called this a few months ago. You said you could see it happening. You also mentioned Jim Ratcliffe as well. So we'll get into all that. First of all, I want to go back to this statement and this announcement by the Glazers that open to a sale, or however they worded it, because I read that statement and it was a little bit wordy, shall we say. I just want to be clear. Is this 100%, do you see this as the Glazers selling? This isn't a case of they're looking for investment or they're going to sell part of the club or any sort of tricks. This is them selling Manchester United.
They're covering their backsides. It's a very corporate statement that's been produced, and that's what you'd expect. What they don't want to do is to back themselves into a corner and say, we're going to sell the whole club, and then nobody comes in and they have to go and sell it off cheap. So by saying that they're looking for strategic investment opportunities and all of the buzzwords that the press office will have encouraged them to say, in a worst case scenario, and nobody comes in, they can say, well, we've sold a few shares, we're keeping the rest of it. So I think there is no way that they would have employed the Rain Group, who Roman Abramovich used to set up the sale of Chelsea, and they wouldn't be using some senior investment banks. And also, because they've actually announced this to the New York Stock Exchange, they're fully aware that it has a huge impact on the share price, which has increased by 47% since the start of the week. If you had a grand's worth of, if you'd bought a grand's worth of United shares on Monday, you'd be sitting on a £470 profit. As we sit here today. So they've got to comply with the New York Stock Exchange rules. I think they're setting it up for a sale. They just want to make sure that if it doesn't go ahead, they can say, well, we told you so. We didn't say we were definitely going to sell it, but it's a bit like if you go and, if you stick your house up for sale and you got a sign outside the door, it doesn't force you to sell it, but it lets everybody know that it's up there.
I mean, we'll get into the people that have been linked with buying Manchester United in a minute. But just first of all, on the debt, because obviously there's still this massive debt at Manchester United. What happens with that? There's someone who comes in and buys Manchester United. Do they have to clear that debt? Can that debt carry on? What's the script with that?
Well, what's likely to be the case is that as far as the lenders are concerned, there'll be something called a change of control clause, so that if the Glazers no longer own Manchester United, they have the right to demand repayment. So let's say that me and you put together a bid for United, and these big American banks saying, well, we've got Jay, he's from Urmston, and we've got Maguire, he's played for Trafford Cricket Club. We think they're a bit dodgy. So the banks are covering their backsides. Yeah, I think we're fine and upstanding. You think we're fine and upstanding. Banks might not agree. So they always cover themselves. If the Glazers sell the club, what they'll do, they'll agree a price for the club. And it's a bit like if we use the position of the house, if I sell my house for 200 grand and I owe the bank 50 on the mortgage, I have to pay the bank that 50 on the mortgage when the house is sold, and I keep the rest. It's likely to be the same as far as the Glazers are concerned, or it could be that as part of the overall deal, the banks are happy with the new owners, and the banks say we'll simply transfer what we're picking up. So it won't impact upon the overall sale.
Just on sort of other sort of commitments that maybe a new owner might have to make, do you think there could be sort of a promise or a commitment to the ground, to developing the ground, to investing in the team? Because just as a fan, you're looking at it, you're thinking, Old Trafford, me and you've spoke about this in the past, it needs at least revamping, if not rebuilding. The training ground probably needs revamping. It's pretty, it's not been done sort of upgraded for 20 odd years. Then you've got the team. I know we've spent money in the summer, but we're still far behind the likes of Manchester City. Do you think they would expect a commitment from an owner, or is that just by the by? It's up to them whether they're going to do that or not.
No. As far as the stock exchange is concerned, they couldn't care less. I think the situation at Chelsea was different because Ken Bates, who isn't everybody's favourite person, one of the really good things he did was that he divided Chelsea's pitch into 1 metre squares, and he sold those off individually. And any owner of Chelsea Football Club had to get the permission of the people that own all of those individual parts of the turf, and had to do a beauty parade. So that meant that the Clear Lake Bowley Group did have to give a commitment in terms of spending 1.75 billion over 10 years before they were able to buy the club. Now, because we don't have an independent regulator, because the likes of Must, yeah, they've got a bit of a dialogue now with United, but they don't have any sway. So unfortunately, in the current climate, we've got no commitment. Although, if you're spending billions on a football club, you need it to make money, and in order to make it money, you need to invest in both of the things which you referred to in terms of infrastructure, both at Old Trafford and at Carrington, and in terms of what's happening on the pitch as well.
Definitely. I hope whoever does come in does spend that money, because, yeah, like we said, it's needed. Last time we spoke, or I think one of the times before we spoke, you mentioned Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He said he could be a potential buyer. You gave the reasons, the fact he was doing more interviews, the Chelsea bid, just his age, and maybe he was looking at a bit of a legacy or whatever. How we're hearing that he could be ready to make an attempt to buy Manchester United, or he's preparing a bid or whatever. How likely do you think it is that he could buy Manchester United?
He's got the resources to do it. He's not a fool. He won't pay over the odds just for sentimental reasons. I think he would be aware that he's likely to be the fans' favourite, and by the fans, I'm sort of referring to local United lads. It could be that sort of a broader fan base might be a bit more ambivalent, but I think the things that he said, which will have impressed my mates, and I suspect the likes of you, that if he does buy the club, it would be because he wants to be a custodian of Manchester United and to preserve its history and heritage and all the things that you hold there, all the things that are important to you as a fan. Whereas if it's going to be a private equity company, they're just looking at bottom line. They will have seen how much money the Glazers are likely to walk away with. They know how much money the Liverpool owners are likely to make from the sale there. And remember, that was announced just a fortnight ago, and we'll try to repeat that. So I think there are emotional and sort of historical reasons why a Jim Ratcliffe bid would be desirable. And certainly, as far as the fan base is concerned, I'd imagine that the toxic elements of going to a match at Old Trafford these days would evaporate straight away. But that's no guarantee. It all comes down to price. Sir Jim is worth a fortune, but he's not going to give half of that away to the Glazers just to be nice to them.
This show is sponsored by Ridge Wallet, the ultimate wallet experience. If you want to upgrade from that bulky back pocket burden, Ridge Wallet is the way to go. I use mine literally every single day. Look at that. That's my actual train card in there. Scan that to get to work every single day. It holds up to 12 cards and still has room for all your cash in there as well. Forget that bulky bad boy. Look at the streamline on that. You can fit that in a breast pocket, let alone a back pocket. Ridge Wallet is the next level for wallets. Upgrade your wallet game using Ridge. They've got over 50,000 five-star reviews. The durable material means it comes with a lifetime warranty, and they know you are going to like the product so much you can test drive it for 99 days, send it back, and get a full refund if you are not happy with the product. Like I said before, 50,000 people say you will be happy with the product. Make sure you check out Ridge Wallet. Go to ridge.com/paddock for up to 40% off all the way through to the 22nd of December. That is ridge.com/paddock for the best discount you are going to get on the best wallet money can buy. Thank you again to Ridge Wallet for sponsoring the show. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and from the interviews we've seen, you can tell. Obviously, he's not going to make a lot of money by being naive. So I understand all that, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there in terms of the fans. A lot of the fans I've spoken to, whether it's in person, in my WhatsApp groups, online, Jim Ratcliffe seems to be the preferred choice. Another suggestion is one of the sovereign states. We've seen it, with the Qataris or the Saudis with Newcastle, the Qataris, I think, with PSG, and obviously the Abu Dhabi group with Manchester City. Is that an option, do you feel? Do you think that one of I've named it, the sort of the Gulf states, but one of the sovereign states or whatever could come in and try and buy Manchester United? Because like we've seen it with the clubs that I've mentioned.
Yes, and I think the timing of the announcement, which coincides with the Qatar World Cup, is indicative of that might be attractive as far as the Glazers are concerned, because they know that a Middle Eastern investor in particular is likely to have deep pockets, is probably more likely to pay the asking price. And what they will hope to do is that they can try to leverage on the World Cup off the pitch is pretty controversial. The World Cup on the pitch has been pretty fantastic to date. We've seen some cracking results. We've seen some big upsets. People are starting to get interested in it, and the focus of attention is there. And by announcing the club going up for sale now, they know that the whole of the Middle East is watching what's happening in Qatar. They will see the high profile of players from PSG and City in particular, and they might say, well, I'm ridiculously wealthy. I've got a flat in Manhattan. I've got a yacht. I've got an island. All of my fellow billionaires can do exactly the same. But if I'm the only person on the planet who can say I own Manchester United, we've got Real Madrid coming, and we've got Barcelona in coming up soon. We're playing against City and Liverpool and Chelsea. Do you fancy coming in the director's box? That gives them a kudos factor. It's a bit like with your mates. If you remember going back to, you're probably too young, go back to the 80s, and if you had the latest, if you were casual, you had the latest Cecchini tracksuit. You had an edge over your mates. Well, this is the equivalent, but just with a few zeros on the back of it.
I love that analogy, by the way. Would that, because one of the things that sort of worries me about that is this whole sports washing thing, and Manchester United being, part of that. Do you think that's what it would be classed as? Would that just be another club being used for sports washing if it was one of those states that we mentioned?
Potentially. I think you have to be careful and not group every country together just because they are geographically close. And the bidders will also be aware of the degree of scrutiny that has been attached to the Newcastle owners, the City owners, people in Qatar, and they might say, well, actually, we're quite happy to make money in other ways, and we'll give it a swerve. I think United fans have used the ownership of some of these other Middle Eastern acquired states as a means of criticizing them, and then it sort of takes away that moral high ground. So I think that would create some reservations amongst United's fan base. If you talk to City fans, if you talk to Newcastle fans, they'll give you a different view. They'll say, well, and you and I both know Manchester well enough to say that for all the criticism that can be levelled at City's owners, they have spent money in Manchester as well as in Manchester City, and that's created jobs and that's created opportunities and so on. So you'll have to see what comes with the whole package before being overcritical. But it will mean that some fans will, especially the more militant element of the fan base, will have some awkward questions to ask themselves.
No, 100%. I get that. You make a great point there. We shouldn't lump all these states together. I think that's, something that sometimes happen, and I might be guilty of myself. And I'd be interested to see, if a bid does come in from that region or from one of those states I mentioned, just the nature of it. And we can make I think every fan can make a judgment based on that themselves. A story that broke this morning, I don't know if you've seen this, I presume you have, about Apple could be interested in Manchester United. What do you make of that? Can you see that happening? I mean, that was a bit of a surprising one for me, Apple buying Manchester United, but, stranger things have happened.
I don't think it would be Apple, because that's not how Apple operates. With the exception of Beats, Apple haven't tended to buy other businesses. What I think is potentially more likely is perhaps Amazon or Facebook. You think about Facebook, it bought Instagram, it bought WhatsApp. It's looking to recover its position, because people don't use Facebook anymore. It's yesterday's technology. Unless you are an old dear who's moaning about somebody's hedge in the village. There is a whole generation of people who have come through social media and they're using other vehicles. So I think we often refer refer to them as sort of as the FANGs, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. I think there could certainly be interest there, but I don't think it's likely to be from Apple itself, because why do Apple need Manchester United? That would be the question I would ask. Whereas I think it could be argued that Facebook do need they do need a return to form, and Manchester United will be one way of delivering that. Similarly, if it was Netflix, and Netflix are going through a bit of a sticky patch at present, if Netflix could have some exclusive relationship with Manchester United through buying it, then you could see the advantages there, because it will be really good for their subscribers.
You never know. We could be sat in the new Netflix arena in a few years to come. Just finally, Kieran, how long do you think all this could take? I know it's difficult to answer, so I don't expect you to have exact dates, but how long do you suspect that this whole could take before we see new owners at Manchester United?
I think we ought to be realistic. There's no urgency from any of the parties involved. What the Glazers have asked the Rain Group to do is to find out the level of interest. So they'll effectively be sending out brochures, or they'll be picking up inquiries. And in the case of Chelsea, there were more than 200 parties interested in acquiring Chelsea, and there was an urgency to sell the club, because it genuinely could have gone under. Had a new owner not come through quickly enough. The Glazers want to extract maximum value. At the same time, they're more than happy to pick up their 22, or their share of the £22 million a year dividend. So there's no urgency from the Glazers. So what's likely to happen is initial inquiries. Then the Rain Group they'll identify the tire kickers. So if me and you sort of after this call we do together decide to send them off an email, they're probably going to reject us, even though I think we'd be fantastic. Then it will go to sort of a beauty parade, and they'll sort of have discussions with the Glazers, with the investment banks who are operating on behalf of the Glazers, and they'll try to do it as an auction, and they'll try to set parties off against each other. They'll get down to probably 2 or 3 preferred bidders, and then they'll say, right, final offers by, let's say 28th of February or the 31st of March. Whoever puts in the highest bid. Then we move to due diligence, and you've got to find out exactly what are you buying, because we assume that we're buying Carrington. Is it part of the deal? So they have to go through the small print line by line. That will take a few more weeks. I can certainly see by the end of the season having new owners well in place, or a preferred bidder well in place, and I think that would be useful for them, because whoever does acquire Manchester United will be looking at the summer 23 transfer market as an opportunity to effectively to make a statement to other football clubs, to the fan base, to all of the stakeholders as far as Manchester United is concerned.
Sorry, just one final thing. You've just made me think of something there, Kieran. In terms of transfers in January, do you think this has any effect? Do you think this could be the Glazers saying, well, there's no point in us spending money in January now, or I know it's the fans' money or Manchester United's money or whatever, or releasing funds for transfers? Do you think this could have any effect on the January market? Because obviously with Ronaldo going, there's thought that we need another striker.
Yeah. I mean, if you were selling your house and one of your windows was a bit crap, instead of replacing the window, you'd probably give it a lick of paint, because you're not going to get your money back. So I think that would be a cause for concern. At the same time, the Glazers know, and the board of directors at Manchester United know, that if they are selling a club which is in a Champions League position, that's going to be more money coming in next year, which means it's going to be more money that they can get from selling the club. So I think there is a vested interest from the Glazers' perspective in making sure that if they are handing over the club, that it's in a competitive position. And in order to do that, you need to recruit people.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, anyway, because I do think Manchester United do need at least one new player in January. Kieran, it's always a pleasure chatting to you. You sort of break these quite complicated things down, so even people like me can understand them. And hopefully next time we speak, we'll be able to have a clearer picture on whether it is Facebook or Netflix or, Jim Ratcliffe or whoever it is coming in to buy Manchester United. So we'll catch up again soon, and make sure everyone, you go and check out Kieran Maguire and The Price of Football. Always good stuff. Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the invite, Jay.
Cheers, Kieran. Good stuff as always. Take care. So there you have it. Could it be Facebook? Could it be Netflix? Could it be Sir Jim Ratcliffe? Or could it be a sovereign state? We're no doubt going to find out, hopefully, by the end of the season, according to what Kieran Maguire was suggesting there. Big thanks to him for coming on a one-on-one interview. Make sure you check out The Price of Football. There's a link in the description. I've been Jay Motti. Thanks for watching.